Hello and welcome. A few years ago we have started a company called Absolute Conic, or shortly Aconic. The idea is that we love building 3D reconstruction algorithms and do it with crazy speeds. So what we do is we are actually building custom designed algorithms and tailor it to the silicon and to the sensor that the company is using. So our partners are companies facing 3D reconstruction problems. They potentially already have an MVP which they built using some third-party solutions, but now they need something that is custom designed, uses all the domain knowledge that is present in their setup, and so we come and build this solution for them. So we built a great track record in doing this. So now it's time to explain where our name comes from. So what is Absolute Conic? Mathematically, the Absolute Conic is a zero-radius sphere that lives on the plane at infinity in the 3D projective space. You can't see it, but it governs how the angles and shape transform in the perspective. So what is a perspective? Perspective is the way when we take in an image of a real scene. So once we see the image, we usually cannot reconstruct the angles. But once we know the image of the Absolute Conic, we can actually reconstruct the angles in the real scene, which is so great. So, to see how this whole thing works, let me show a painting that is painted by Perugino and exhibited in the Vatican, and show how we can reconstruct the angles once we know how the image of the Absolute Conic looks like. Okay, so let's see how this estimation can go. So first of all, as you see, Perugino has painted a nice square pattern on the square itself. And as you can see, the lines meet at one point that is called the vanishing point. That's the main vanishing point in the middle of the picture. But unfortunately, this vanishing point is not very lucky, so we cannot calculate the image of the Absolute Conic, which we would like to do to be able to measure the angles. But what we can do is we can use the diagonals of the squares and see that they actually meet at one point, like each diagonal in a point. Those are the diagonal vanishing points. Now, having these vanishing points, we are actually able to reconstruct the image of the Absolute Conic, which is great. So I'm going to show, a bit later, I'm going to show how the image of the Absolute Conic looks like. But before that, let me draw your attention to a little detail. So as you see, Perugino has painted an octagonal building in the middle. And this octagonal building has sides that are actually parallel to these diagonals. They should be parallel to these diagonals, since they also have 45 angle with the main line. So what this means? What this means is that all lines that are on this building side, on this side of the building, should actually meet at the vanishing point of the diagonals. And they don't. Actually, this is why this octagonal building looks a bit weird when you are looking at it. Because Perugino made a mistake with the perspective, because these lines should actually meet at the diagonal vanishing points. Now, if I draw the diagonal vanishing points on the picture, you can see here that this is the mistake he made. So it's not a very big mistake, but still it disturbs our eyes. So let me return to the image of the Absolute Conic. As I have said, the image of the Absolute Conic is still not very easy to see, because it still has some really complex number coordinates. But what we can do, it actually governs the angles as well. So what we can do is we can show how angles behave on the picture. And for me, my favorite way to show this is to show an icosahedron. Imagine that you are sitting in the middle of an icosahedron and you are looking outside. And then you will actually see triangles. And I'm also drawing circles around the triangles. And the way these circles transform actually shows you how the camera distorts the angles. So we can say that this is a representation of the image of the Absolute Conic. I think it's pretty nice. Okay, so let me return to the original Perugino painting, and let's try to measure angles once we already estimated the image of the Absolute Conic. So as you see, these are the diagonal lines, or the lines of the tiling, and we also see the contours of the stairs of the building. And since we can measure the angles, we can actually reconstruct how it looks like from the top view. And as you see, Well, the octagonal building is not very nicely centered, and it's also a bit rotated, and the angles are not great. So this is how Perugino made a little mistake. He was an early painter for Renaissance, and this is probably the way the perspective drawing and also projective geometry got more and more important and famous. So for a comparison, let me show you a painting by Raphael. This is the Marriage of the Virgin. And as you see on this painting, the structure is pretty similar. You have the square tilings and you have some building in the middle. And if we do the same thing, estimate the image of the absolute conic, and then also find the contours of the stairs, then we actually see this. It's a much better, much more symmetrical building. And so this is how Raphael did perspective, no matter he's a bit more famous than Perugino. So this is why we named our company Absolute Conic, or Aconic for short. It reflects the way we like approaching problems, with a deep understanding of the domain, of the deeper geometry of the data, the sensor, and the hardware as well. We not only apply algorithms, we engineer them. So this is why every project we do is tuned to the data, to the hardware, and to the sensor itself. We love doing sensor-based, sensor-aware solutions. So if you have one, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.